Does that look okay? Excellent. Well, welcome to another BioQuest Cubes community conversation. Today we'll be taking a look at opportunities for publishing resources from conferences and workshops and posters using the Cubes platform, and show some examples of what's been done and propose to individuals that even if your meeting is not being hosted on Cubes, this might be a nice outlet for some of your professional activities. Let's see if I can make this advance. Very briefly, we're just going to go quickly over the system for publishing on Cubes and mention a few of the features, including the tagging and versioning and commenting and so forth. And then we'll take a look at conference and workshop related publishing from the perspective of people participating in conferences and people organizing conferences. And then we have a list of resources and examples, additional examples to look at. But we'll spend the bulk of the time having discussion, answering questions, and providing any hands-on help. So we generally keep these to about 15 minutes of presentation. They are recorded and posted up to the BioQuest site in the webinars and office hours area. And so I'm happy to answer any questions as we go through, but the idea is that other people can drop in and look at these later. And we really want to just introduce the idea and then focus on some discussion. So if you haven't published before on Cubes, I'll just say a couple of things about it. If from the main menu area, you'll see that the navigation is broken into 3 major sections. And under the resources, you'll see how to access our Open Education Resources Library with direct links to more information about OER and how to submit a resource, and the opportunity to browse and search for resources. The publication library supports the entire OER lifecycle, which means that we make it possible for people to come back to their materials and update them through a process we call versioning. And depending on the license you select to publish under, if you allow derivative materials, other people can go in, adapt your materials for their own course context or student audience. The attribution is tracked automatically in the database. So their publication will say this was an adaptation of somebody else's activity with a link to that activity, which really is a nice way to measure impact. As of today, I just looked, there are 1,947 resources available in the Cubes library. And one nice thing about this library is that it's highly interconnected, so that you have ways to access the project that activity came from. You can jump straight to authors' information if they have a Cubes account and have linked that account in their publication. And I'll show you a little bit of that. And these resources are really becoming a main draw for visitors to both BioQuest and the Cubes platform particularly. So from the author perspective, publishing provides a lot of nice resources in terms of measuring impact and tracking engagement with your materials. So you have metrics for how popular your resource is in terms of how many times it's been viewed and downloaded. And then, as I mentioned, when adaptations occur on the material that was the source of the adaptation, it logs that and provides you a link to the new versions in case somebody, let's say you modified a lab from a 4-hour setting to a 2-hour setting, people might want to look at both of those versions. Additionally, we are minting digital object identifiers, which give you a unique stable web address for this. And when you come back and update something, we maintain and track all of the versions. It's slightly outside of this screenshot I took, But a little further down, you also have a full citation of that work with the authors and the DOI and links directly to get to that material. So we just think it's a really nice opportunity for faculty to get recognized for their scholarship through the publication system. So when we're thinking about publishing in the context of conferences and workshops, I just spent last week at 2 face-to-face meetings, and it was a real change. It's been a long time since I've been out in the world like that. But too often we go to these meetings and we share our paper or share our poster, and then we may put it on a personal website, but that can be kind of cumbersome. And so we really wanted to emphasize that as the season for face-to-face meetings kicks back in, or even meetings at a distance, leveraging the CUBE's platform can really help you capture some of that professional activity. So most people think about publishing open education resources teaching materials. And I have the tagging ontology from the publication site over here on the right. And I haven't opened that link, but that has things like the level of the activity, the length of the activity, and so forth, right? All tied to the teaching context. But when you look under the reference materials lists of tags, you can see a lot of more sort of conference and professional activities that are offered up. And so there's some overlap, right? So you can have an abstract for a workshop, or you can have an abstract for a conference material. We always recommend tagging liberally. It really helps people connect things together and find things that they might be interested in. But you can see right off the bat that there's a clear tag for posters and presentations, workshops. And so those are what we're going to be talking about today. In addition to the fixed metadata that exists within the publishing system, you also have the option to submit custom tags for your materials. And in this case, we're going to start advocating for some standardized tags so that we can begin to cluster materials. So we're going to suggest using the acronym for the organization or the meeting, and then the year of that meeting. So a bunch of us are heading out to NABT this fall, and we will post our materials under the tag NABT 2022. And one thing you might do is look around to see if other people have established a tag, and then follow that convention, and we may formalize it some as well. So for individuals who are attending meetings and generating materials, we see a couple of significant motivators, right? You're going to get a citation with stable public access to that set of materials. You'll have opportunities to version and adapt that material. I've reused posters in many, many contexts, or versioned them for the next iteration of the research or the next conference I go to. And there are communications features such as comments that make it possible to have some discussions around posters or other publications. And so that if you invite comment, sometimes people will give you some feedback, things like that. So let me just show a couple of examples of how this operates on the platform. When you are logged in to the CUBE's platform, you will see that you're logged in, or you have your picture or your initials. These are in different parts of the site. You see different things, but it's always going to be in the upper right-hand corner. And when you click on that, it's going to expose a what's called a mini dashboard, and it provides you quick access to some of your account information, right? So this is specific to me because I'm logged in. And what I'm going to do is go ahead and click on the profile link and jump to account information around my my access to the Cube's platform. So here I am at the profile, and while I'm here, I might want to take a look and make sure that my profile is up to date and accurate. You can take each of these sort of areas like the email or the organization and edit those and decide whether they're publicly visible or not. Or so we always encourage people to share their email and share a little bit of personal information because it helps us connect with each other. And then over here on the left in our profile, we see specific activities, right? Groups that you belong to, projects you belong to, and under contributions, if I click on that, you can see the publications that you're listed under. And so here, anywhere where my name has been included in a publication and is associated with my account, I have this nice collection, this nice record of all of those available in a single space. I can download them easily, rearrange them, search them, and so forth. And so it's just a nice way to sort of accrue almost an e-portfolio of your activities on the Cube site and your collaborations with BioQUEST. Now, one other interesting thing about this is that all of these other linked names, these co-authors, and anywhere where you see a linked name on the site, if you click on that individual, you'll go to their profile. So here I'm clicking on Caitlin Bonner, co-author on that Rios project that was described. And here's her. So now I don't have the edit view of her profile, right? I can't edit her profile, but here's what she's chosen to display. And over here, I can see that she has 16 other publications. And so if I click on that area, I get a list of the other things that she's done, right? We have this shared one that got me here, but then I can go through and look at other things she's published. And so we think this is really powerful when you're finding individuals that teach in the same area or doing parallel sorts of scholarship. It can be very valuable. So if you are organizing a meeting or coordinating individuals who are collaborating together, there are a couple of specific things that we think this system can be used for. Probably most important is that you are documenting your event in a significant way that both has rich content and a lot of stability. And we find this to be very helpful when we're reporting to our funders, that we can point to the products of that meeting, the contributions that members made, and we've gotten a lot of nice feedback about that capacity. The other way we use it is to sort of further engage the participants in the meeting, whether it's an informal working group or whether it's a conference, by having people submit their materials and then sharing them in the group space. It's very easy to coordinate activity and work and collaboration in advance of the meeting, during the meeting, and then after the meeting itself. And I should mention at some point, I'll just mention it here since I thought about it, that participants in this summer's Biome meeting, the 2022 Biome meeting, who are submitting posters or whips, works in progress, or who are leading a workshop and will be sharing workshop materials, those will all be published in advance, and we will use those to organize the poster sessions and give people pre-work for the workshops, and make sure that you can always come back to those materials and access them easily after the meeting. So here's an example of just a little subsection of a page that's listing an online poster session. We have what's described as a card view of the publication. You can click on the title to jump straight to the full record. It contains some of the statistics about the use of that resource. And then we've added in, just sort of at the page level, information about the Zoom meeting for that poster session. And instead of using the publication comments, sometimes we link it to a discussion forum so that the discussion of the poster happens in a threaded discussion. The nice thing is that, you know, posters can be big files. Posters can be difficult to distribute. Sometimes at a conference, you'll get a printout of somebody's poster. This is really, really easy. So here's a full record for a poster, students authoring molecular case studies. And when I click to download those materials, boom, I get my, in this case, it was a PowerPoint, but it could be a PDF. OER best practices for publishing suggests that we share something in an editable form so other people can pick it up and adapt it. But it really streamlines access to some of these resources. And here's an example of the sharing workshop materials where the authors are featured with some descriptions of their activity, and then they have materials that people can work on in advance, and sometimes they're materials that are developed during the workshop that can be shared out afterwards, all in the context of the meeting schedule and easy to navigate and accessible to everyone who's participating in the meeting. So that's just it's really just a pep talk to keep this in mind as you are moving forward and sort of reestablishing yourself as we begin to go back to face-to-face meetings or continue with our hybrid environments. There are a couple of resources here. This link is a collection of publication help files. And here's a link to submitting a resource directly. We have some broader support areas where we have a partner support group and our office hours and webinars where a recording of this will be available in a couple of days. And then here are some materials that have been published that are tagged as posters or workshops or presentations. And sorry, I'm just going to go back for a second. I meant to say, I'm looking at the full record for this poster, and here are the tags. And if I were to click on the poster tag here, it would give me a list of all of the posters that have been, all of the materials that have been tagged with that. So it can really help you find things pretty quickly. Okay, so this is just to acknowledge that this is a team project, many people involved. BioQuest is our overarching organization. We really recommend that people take a look and subscribe to the newsletter because we're sharing information about partner groups and functionalities on a regular basis, and you can follow us on social media. Thanks so much, and I'm looking forward to our discussion and conversation.